This will be a short lesson on entering numbers into a TI-30X2 calculator. This will work on some other inexpensive TI calculators as well, but we're interested in scientific notation. Here's how you enter a number in scientific notation. Let's suppose you want to put in the number 7.89 times 10 to the 6th. First thing you do is punch in the 7.89, and then on this calculator you'd hit the second button, that one up there, hit the EE button, and EE is right there on the keyboard. As soon as you do that, you've told the calculator, I'm going to be using scientific notation, and the next number coming is the exponent on the 10. And so you hit the 6. That's all you have to do. You don't have to put a 10 in anywhere. You just do that second EE exponent, and that's it. And when you do that, the display looks like this, 7.89E6. This model of calculator doesn't have a way of showing superscripts for raised exponents or anything like that, so it writes it that way. This particular notation is something that has been around for a while in old computer programming. That's how you do a number in scientific notation. In Microsoft Excel, that's a way that you can do it as well. Let's put in a number with a negative exponent. 1.67 times 10 to the minus 27th. First put in the 1.67, hit the second button up there, hit the EE button over there. Now you need to tell the calculator that you're putting in a negative exponent. And the way you do that on TI calculators is you use this little minus sign wrapped in parentheses down here. And that's reserved for using on exponents for the most part. And then you put in the 27. And the display will look like this. There are some fine points about this display. That minus sign in front of the 27 actually looks different than the subtraction sign. I'll show you that a little bit farther along here. But anyway, that number's entered. Here's the wrong way to do negative exponents. You'd go 1.67 second EE minus, but this time instead of using that minus sign wrapped in parentheses, you hit the subtraction sign. And that button is reserved for the operation of subtraction. So your calculator now thinks that you're subtracting something instead of having the sign on an exponent. And then you put in the 27. And this one won't show up as an error right away until you try to do something with it. So if I tried to multiply a number by this 1.67 second EE weird minus sign that I've got there, if I wanted to multiply this by 5, so that's what I've entered so far, and then to actually perform the operation I'd hit the enter key down there, and what I get is a syntax error. So that's the calculator's way of telling you, but it didn't tell you that until you actually tried to do an operation with it, which can be inconvenient if you'd had a whole bunch of stuff to enter after that. But if you hit the, I don't remember which button, I think the clear button on here, it'll pop you back to this screen, and you see that square box following the cursor E, or following the E. That would be blinking, telling you that's where you made your error. And if at that point you just change that subtraction sign to the minus sign wrapped in parentheses, then that looks a little different than the subtraction sign. Can't see it here. But right now you'd have a blinking cursor over the 27, but you don't need that. Then you could hit equal and actually find out what the answer to your multiplication problem was. There's another thing about entering the numbers, but for the scientific notation, remember the 3 important keys to push are the second button, and then the EE button, and for negative exponents down there, that minus sign wrapped in parentheses. Those are the ones you use. Some people have been taught to use a different button on here. Don't do it. That's the 10 to the X button here. You could also possibly think that you might use the caret key in a 10 and things like that. Don't do those. They require more keystrokes. You have to be super careful about wrapping things in parentheses when you use that key. And so just don't do it that way. Use the second EE button. And that's it for entering numbers. Next, you'll want to learn to start performing calculations with those things.